I came home early to surprise my wife on our anniversary. Turns out she already had company. 2 glasses of red on the coffee table. Not one, two, and a man's coat folded over the arm of my sofa like it had been there 100 times before. My name is Victor, 41, structural engineer. I build bridges at the real kind, steel and tension and load, the kind that hold when everything is trying to pull them down. For 11 years, I thought I'd built a good marriage too. I want to walk you through the 4 hours it took me to watch that come apart, not with a fight, with a dinner I cooked. In my right hand, I was holding a small black box. Inside it, a watch, engraved, both our names and the date we got married. I'd driven 90 minutes across town that afternoon to get the engraving finished in time. In my other hand, white flowers, the ones Aaron used to say were the only flowers that didn't try too hard. I stood in the doorway of my own house holding both of those things, and I looked at that second glass of wine, and everything inside me went very quiet. Then Aaron came out of the hallway, and for half a second, she looked at me the way you'd look at an intruder in my own house. Then the smile came back, the way a light comes back after it flickers, like nothing had gone dark at all. "You're home early," she said. "I wanted to surprise you," I said, and I smiled too. God help me. I smiled. That's when he stood up. He was younger than me, softer around the eyes, the kind of face that's used to being forgiven for things. Aaron's hand made a small wave between us, too casual, too rehearsed. "Victor, this is Cole." He came to tune the piano. The piano in the corner, the one nobody in this house has touched in 3 years. I bought her that piano early on because she told me once, back when I still asked her things, that before life got practical, she'd wanted to be a musician. She never played it. It just sat there in the corner like a promise we'd both quietly agreed to stop mentioning. And now, here was a man to tune it at 7 in the evening on our anniversary, with his coat on my sofa and the wine already poured and breathing. "That's great," I said. "I've been meaning to get that looked at. Stay for dinner, Cole. I insist." I watched something pass between them across the room. I pretended I didn't. Here's the thing you need to understand about me. I don't yell. I never learned how. My whole life, when something frightens me, I don't get loud. I get calm, slow. I start noticing things. And that night, I noticed everything. I noticed that when I said, "Let's move to the table," Cole went to the kitchen and opened the right cabinet, second from the left, the high one where we keep the good glasses. He didn't look. He didn't ask. You don't know which cabinet holds the glasses in a stranger's kitchen. You just don't. I noticed our dog, Rufus, a suspicious old animal who has barked at the same mailman for 9 years, put his head down in Cole's lap and sighed like he was home. I noticed that when the heat clicked on and the vent rattled the way our vent always rattles, Cole didn't even glance up. Everybody glances up the first time. He'd heard it before, many, many times. I set the black box down beside my plate, and all through that dinner, I kept my thumb on the corner of it, turning it a quarter turn and back, a quarter turn and back. We ate. I poured. I asked Cole about himself, and here's what I did not expect. I liked him. For 20 minutes, I sat there and liked the man having an affair with my wife. He was funny in a tired way. He told me about a tour that fell through, a record label that stopped answering his emails, the tuning work he did on the side to keep the lights on. He was the kind of broke that makes a person soft instead of hard. At one point, he said, not even to me, half to his plate. She said you were never really here. And I said nothing. I just turned the box a quarter turn and back because the worst part was that it was true. Um, I looked at Aaron, looking at him, and I saw something on my wife's face I had not seen aimed in my direction in years. She was awake, lit from the inside, alive in a way that 11 years of flowers and boxes and 90-minute drives had never once made her. And that's where the calm cracked, just a hairline, because I realized I wasn't only angry, I was jealous, not of him having her body, of him getting the version of her I'd been trying to purchase in installments for over a decade. So I tested it. I raised my glass, easy, warm. To new friends, I said, and I watched Cole reach for his wine and stop because Aaron, without a single word, had already slid a coaster under his glass, the way you do for someone whose habits live in your hands, the way she used to do for me. So, how long have you two known each other? I asked. Light, just curious. A couple of weeks, Aaron said. About 5 years, Cole said, at the exact same time. There's a specific silence that has weight to it that falls through the floor. That was the silence at my table. Cole's face drained white. Erin closed her eyes, slow, like a woman bracing for a wave she'd seen coming from a long way off. And I sat there and understood that I had been eating dinner across from 5 years. Not a fling, not one weeknight at a low moment. 5 years of tuning a piano no one plays. 5 years of coats on my sofa while I was out on a job site building something for a woman who had been somewhere else the entire time. I set my fork down. I laid my whole hand flat on top of the black box like it might get up and leave. And Cole, bless him, break him, Cole panicked. He turned to her and said the sentence that split the night wide open. He said, "You told me tonight was the night. You said you'd finally tell him." I looked at my wife very calmly. "Tell me what, Aaron?" And she didn't cry. That's the part that undid me. She didn't perform. She didn't reach for me. She didn't fall apart. She just looked tired, more tired than I have ever seen another human being look in my life, like something that had been holding its breath for 5 years and was finally allowed to let it go. "I left the door unlocked," she said, barely a sound. What? "Tonight. I knew you were coming home early. I saw the calendar. I saw you'd ordered the flowers, and I couldn't say the words, Victor. I've tried for years, and I could never make the words come out. So I just left the door open, and I poured two glasses, and I waited for you to walk in and see it for yourself, so I wouldn't have to be the one to say it. Now, here's the part I don't like. The part where I have to be honest with you and it costs me something because it would be so easy to sit here and be the good man wronged. I gave her everything: the house, the car, the trips with the photographs, the box with both our names cut into the metal. But somewhere in that dinner, I finally understood the thing I'd spent 11 years refusing to understand. I didn't marry Erin and love her. I married Erin and then spent every year after trying to sand her down into the wife I had designed in my head. Perfect, grateful, content in every photo. I gave her every single thing on earth except the one thing she actually asked me for, which was to be known, to be asked a real question and have someone stay for the real answer. And there was one thing I could never give her: a private thing, a thing my body stopped being able to do years ago that has nothing to do with love and everything to do with pride. And instead of talking to her about it, instead of letting it be a thing we carried together, I bought her a piano. I bought her flowers that don't try too hard. I built more bridges. I built everything a man can build, uh, except one honest conversation with my own wife. I'm not letting her off. Understand me. 5 years of lying to my face is hers. She owns that, and no amount of loneliness makes it clean. And leaving a door unlocked is not the same as having the courage to speak. Don't let anyone tell you it is. But I could no longer sit in my own living room and pretend I'd been nothing but the victim in this house. So I opened the box, I turned it around to face them both, and I opened it, and there it was. And the watch, the two names, the date, catching the light off the table. I reached across and I set it down right in the middle, right between the two glasses of wine, and I let all three of us just look at it. That was your gift, I said. For 11 years. Nobody touched it. Cole was staring down at his own hands like they belonged to a stranger. Aaron was staring at the watch the way you'd stare at a photograph of somebody who had died a long time ago. I didn't scream. I told you. I never learned how. I stood up. I picked up the white flowers and I laid them down next to the watch, next to the two glasses, and I said, "Keep the house. I'll send someone for my things." And then I said the last true thing I had left in me. I looked at Cole, the sad, funny, broke man my wife came alive for at my own table. And I said, "Take care of her, ask her things, really ask." That's all she ever wanted from me. And I was too busy being perfect to do it. Then I walked out of my own front door, the one she'd left open for me. And I'll tell you something I'm not proud of and can't explain away. For the first time in 11 years, the quiet inside me wasn't fear. It was relief. The very same relief I just watched move across her face. We had both been holding our breath for so long. It just took us 5 years and one dinner to finally let it out. I've had a long time now to think about that door, because here's what I still can't decide, and maybe you can. She didn't have the courage to say a single word, so she left the door open and let me walk into the truth alone. Some nights I lie awake and I think that is the most cowardly thing one person can do to someone they once loved. And some other nights I think it was the only confession she knew how to make. So tell me, if someone loves you badly, quietly, dishonestly for years, and then leaves the door open so that you'll finally see for yourself, is that a betrayal? Or is it the closest they ever came to telling you the truth? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone.